Cooking a nice steak for dinner could be an intimidating task because of how much they cost, and you really only get one shot to get it right. So here I'm going to show you how to do a fail-safe, foolproof method of cooking a steak using science. Now first I'm going to take our 2-inch thick, about 2¼ pound ribeye steak and put it in a Ziploc bag. You could also put it in a airtight vacuum seal bag if you have one of those. And now I'm going to take a sprig of rosemary, break it in half and put one on each side because this thing is a thick steak. And that's thick with at least 3 C's. And once I get the rosemary in there, I'm going to add some butter because butter will make everything better. Now if you're wondering, that doesn't look like all that much butter for a steak this large. Don't worry, because after we pre-cook it in our sous vide machine, we're going to pan sear it with a lot more butter, so don't you worry. And now garlic goes great with steak, so here I'm just going to cut the ends of the garlic off, give it a quick smash, remove as much of the paper as I can. It's not too important that you remove all of it, just because you're going to end up throwing out what's in here anyway. And now it's time to look at our sous vide machine. If you remember in the past, I actually used this machine to temper chocolate, and the reason I used it then is because you get amazing temperature control from it. It cooks things in a water bath, so to set it up I just put it in a large pot and fill it up with water. And the benefits of this is it's going to cook our steak to a perfect medium rare temperature without possibly going too far over, because being that it's in a water bath, it's only going to get that hot. So there's no fear of actually overcooking it. And I'm going to let it sit in there for about 3 to 4 hours. Because it's such a large steak, it's going to be like 3.5 hours. And while we're waiting for the steak to cook, what I'm going to do is I'm going to prep all of the ingredients that we're going to throw in the pan as we're searing the steak, just to give it more flavor, give us something to baste our steak in. And you can add whatever you want here. I'm just going to add garlic, some onions, some more rosemary, just all around really good aromatics to add extra flavor. And so with it being about 3.5 hours, our steak should be done. Now don't be too afraid when you take your steak out, it's going to be gray. Now actually it is fully cooked, so you could technically eat it now, but as you can see it does not look that nice nor appealing, it's all gray. But as you can see, as I'm pushing apart the skin, you can see that all the fat, the intramuscular fat, has actually rendered out, and that shows that it is fully cooked. Now I'm going to add a bit more salt, a bit more pepper, and a little bit of garlic powder on the outside. I also seasoned it with some salt before when I put it in the bag, just to make sure that it was nice and perfectly well seasoned. Now in my cast iron skillet, I'm going to put that on super high heat. You want it as high as possible. You want the pan to actually be smoking hot. And that's just to give yourself a really good sear on the outside. You want to cook the outside, give it a nice sear, but not cook the inside anymore, because it's already at that temperature where it's a nice medium rare. And now as it cooks, I'm going to take all those basting ingredients that I threw in there and just start basting the top of our steak. Make sure I get every side of the steak and baste it throughout. This is going to add some really good flavors. And don't be afraid to add more butter, because butter makes everything better. And when you're dealing with a steak this large, a lot of people will be afraid that they're adding too much seasoning, but in reality it's just the right amount, because there is a lot of meat that needs to be seasoned. And as you can see here, we got a really nice sear. It's looking really good, bubbling outside, perfect, nice and crunchy. Now I'm going to lift it up and I'm actually going to sear the fat cap. And this is important to render out this big fat cap into the pan. And as you can see, actually, as I drop it back into the pan, this pan is incredibly hot, still smoking, which is perfect. And now I'm going to take this oil and burnt bits, and I'm actually going to discard them. And I'm just going to cook up some cherry tomatoes just for a nice little garnish. But as you can see, there was a lot of fat still left in the pan, and because of that, I'm going to make a really nice pan sauce using balsamic vinegar, some mustard, some Worcestershire sauce, and some butter, along with some of the not completely burnt bits of onion and garlic that were left over. And you're pretty much just going to cook this down until it's a nice sauce consistency. You could also use red wine, but really what this is for is you're going to want to deglaze the pan. Now after putting the steak on the cutting board, letting it rest for about 5 to 6 minutes, Definitely longer because this steak is really big. I'm going to actually cut into it, and as you can see, it is a perfect medium rare. It is beautiful, and it is incredibly tender. Also, because we let it rest for that 5 to 8 minutes, it's not completely losing all of its juices, and it's had time to reabsorb them. So thank you guys for watching. Please follow us on our Instagram page for more information and for more upcoming videos, and peace.